The galaxy was old. It had seen empires rise and fall like waves on an endless ocean. 4,000 species called it home, and they had learned one truth above all others. The strong survived, and the weak served or died. Humanity had joined this vast community 300 years ago. They came with open hands and curious eyes. They brought art and music and strange ideas about kindness. The older species watched them with amusement. Here was a young race, barely out of their cradle world, who thought the universe could be gentle. The Galactic Concord gave humanity a place at the table, but it was a small place. They called humans a Tier 7 civilization. This meant they were allowed to exist, allowed to trade, allowed to speak at council meetings. But no one had to listen. Ambassador Alara Vance had represented humanity for 15 years. She was a tall woman with silver hair and tired eyes. She had seen too many debates end with silence. She had watched too many weaker species cry for help while the council talked and did nothing. Today was no different. She stood before the High Council chamber, a massive room carved from asteroid rock and filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Beings of crystal and flame, of shadow and light, of chitin and scale. They all looked at her with the same expression: boredom. The Vrakthari Dominion has attacked 3 more systems, Alara said. Her voice was calm but firm. They have killed millions. They are not conquering. They are exterminating. The Concord must act. A sound like grinding stones came from the Vrakthari section. Their ambassador rose. He was tall and terrible, an insectoid creature with 4 arms and eyes like black mirrors. His name was Vrex, and he spoke with the confidence of someone who had never known fear. The Concord has rules, Vrex said. We do not interfere in territorial disputes. Those systems were weak. They could not defend themselves. That is not our crime. That is nature. Alara felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face still. There were children on those worlds. Families. They asked for help. We did nothing. You speak of children, Rex replied. How touching. How human. But the galaxy is not a nursery, Ambassador. It is a hunting ground. Your species has survived this long because you are too small to be worth hunting. Be grateful for that. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not from everyone, but from enough. Alara looked around at the faces of beings she had once called allies. They turned away from her gaze. The vote was called. The motion to sanction the Vrakthari failed. It was not even close. Alara walked out of the chamber alone. Her footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. She had known the result before she spoke. She always knew. But she kept trying because that was what humans did. They hoped. They believed things could be better. Sometimes she wondered if that made them brave or just foolish. Her personal device buzzed against her wrist. A message from Earth Command, marked urgent. She found a quiet alcove and opened it. The words hit her like a physical blow. Vrakthari. Scout ships have been detected at the edge of human space. Not 1 or 2. Dozens. They were watching. They were waiting. And they were moving closer every day. Alara read the message 3 times. Her hands began to shake. She sent an emergency request to the Concord Security Bureau. She contacted every ally humanity had made in 3 centuries. She begged for ships, for weapons, for anything. The responses came slowly. Some species offered sympathy. Some offered prayers. Most offered nothing at all. We cannot spare resources for a border dispute, wrote the Vishan Collective. Your concerns are noted, replied the Aldari Federation. We will monitor the situation. Monitor. That word meant nothing. It meant watching from safety while others burned. Alara returned to Earth on the fastest ship she could find. The blue marble hung in space, beautiful and fragile. 8 billion people lived there, going about their lives, raising their children, falling in love, growing old. They had no idea what was coming. She met with the United Earth Council in Geneva. President Amara Okonkwo sat at the head of the table. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and a voice that could fill any room. She had led humanity through 3 crises already.
But nothing like this. How long do we have?
The president asked. Weeks, Alara replied. Maybe days. The Vractari do not warn. They do not negotiate. When they decide to attack, they attack. And the Concord? Alara's silence was answer enough. Admiral Marcus Cole leaned forward. He was the commander of humanity's defense fleet, such as it was. 37 ships. Enough to patrol trade routes and chase pirates. Not enough to stop an invasion.
We can fight, Cole said.
We can make them pay for every system they take. And then, President Okonkwo asked. Cole had no answer. The meeting ended without resolution. What could they resolve? Humanity was a small species in a vast galaxy, and they had made the mistake of being kind in a universe that rewarded cruelty. That night, Alara stood on the balcony of her apartment in Geneva. The city lights spread out below her like fallen stars. Somewhere out there, children were sleeping. Parents were reading bedtime stories. Lovers were whispering promises. None of them knew that ships were gathering in the darkness. None of them knew that an empire of predators had looked at humanity and seen nothing but prey. Alara had spent her whole life believing in diplomacy. She believed that words could bridge any gap, that understanding could heal any wound. She believed that if humans just kept trying, kept showing the galaxy their best selves, eventually the universe would show kindness in return. Now she stood in the dark and felt that belief crumbling. Her device buzzed again. Another message from the border. The Vractari fleet had crossed into human space. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. Not tears of sadness. Not yet. Tears of rage. Tears of helplessness. Tears for every time she had stood before the council and been ignored. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, death was coming. And the galaxy that humanity had tried so hard to befriend would do nothing to stop it. The first human world fell 3 days later. And then the screaming began. The colony of New Helsinki died on a Tuesday. It was a small world at the edge of human space. 3 million people lived there. Farmers, teachers, engineers, families who had left Earth looking for a quieter life. They found it for a while. The Vractari came without warning. Their ships filled the sky like a plague of locusts. They did not demand surrender. They did not ask for tribute. They simply opened fire. The planetary defense grid lasted 11 minutes. Then the bombs fell. Marcus Cole watched the footage from his command ship, the UES Defiance. He watched buildings crumble. He watched people run through streets that turned to fire. He watched children reach for parents who would never hold them again. When it was over, nothing lived on New Helsinki. The Vractari had turned it into glass and Ashdod. They broadcast the destruction to every corner of the galaxy. A message. A warning. A promise of what was to come. This is what happens to the weak, Ambassador Vrex announced over every channel. Humanity thought kindness was strength. Humanity was wrong. Watch and learn. Cole gathered his fleet. 37 ships against hundreds. It was hopeless, but he went anyway. That was what humans did. The battle lasted 4 hours. Human ships fought with everything they had. They took down 12 Vractari vessels before the last human ship was destroyed. Cole survived only because his crew forced him into an escape pod against his orders. He drifted in the darkness, watching the wreckage of his fleet burn and fade. He had failed. He had failed his people, his oath, everything he believed in. But the Vractari were not finished. Colony after colony fell. Meridian Prime, with its beautiful crystal cities. Haven, where humanity's greatest artists had gathered. Prosperity, named for the dreams of its founders. All of them burned. All of them died. The Concord watched. They held emergency sessions. They debated the proper response. They formed committees to study the situation. Alara Vance screamed at them until her voice gave out. She begged on her knees for help. She offered anything humanity had. "We are sorry for your loss," the council replied. "But intervention would set a dangerous precedent." Sorry. They were sorry. As if sorry meant anything to the dead. The Vractari took their time. They were not in a hurry. They wanted humanity to suffer. They wanted the galaxy to see that suffering. For 3 months, they moved from world to world, killing and burning and laughing. They called it the culling. Finally, they came for Earth. The last ships of humanity's broken fleet gathered in orbit. Civilian vessels, cargo haulers, anything that could carry a weapon. They knew they would die. They formed a line anyway. Marcus Cole stood on the bridge of a commandeered freighter. He had lost everything already. His crew, his friends, his purpose. All he had left was the desperate hope that he could buy Earth a few more hours. The Vractari fleet appeared like a wall of shadow across the stars. Hundreds of warships. Thousands of fighters. More firepower than humanity had ever possessed. Cole opened a channel to Earth. "We will hold as long as we can. Use the time. Save who you can." President Okonkwo's voice came back, broken with static and grief. "God bless you, Admiral. God bless all of you." The battle was a slaughter. Human ships exploded like fireflies. They fought anyway. They crashed their dying vessels into Vractari cruisers. They fired their weapons until their reactors overloaded. They did everything humans had always done when their backs were against the wall. It was not enough. It was never going to be enough. Cole's ship was hit. Then hit again. He dragged himself through burning corridors, past the bodies of his crew, to the last escape pod. He did not want to leave. He wanted to die with his ship, with his people, with the world that had given him everything. But something in him refused. Some stubborn human spark that would not go out. He launched the pod and watched through a tiny window as the Vractari descended on Earth. They did not bomb it all at once. That would have been mercy. Instead, they chose their targets carefully. The great cities. The places where humanity had built its dreams. Rome, where humans had first reached for empire and law. Gone in a flash of nuclear fire. Beijing, where philosophers had pondered the nature of existence for millennia. Reduced to shadows on scorched earth. New York, where humanity had declared that all people were created equal. Nothing remained but a crater filled with radioactive glass. 4 billion people died that day. 4 billion stories ended. 4 billion futures were stolen. Cole drifted in his pod and watched his homeworld burn. His wife had lived in Sydney. His children had gone to school there. He had promised to come home for his daughter's birthday. Now, there was nothing to come home to. The Vractari withdrew after 3 days. They had made their point. Humanity was broken. Humanity was finished. Humanity would never threaten anyone again. Let this be a lesson, Rex broadcast to the galaxy. The weak exist at our pleasure. Today it was humans. Tomorrow it could be you. Remember who your masters are. The surviving humans scattered across the stars. A few million out of 12 billion. Refugees on ships that were never meant to carry so many. Children who had watched their parents die. Parents who had lost everything. They gathered on a barren moon in a forgotten system. It had no name, so they gave it one. Remembrance. President Okonkwo had survived. She stood before the refugees, a small woman who looked 1,000 years old. Her voice was hoarse. Her hands trembled, but her eyes burned with something that was not grief. They think we are finished, she said. They think they have killed us. They killed billions. But they did not kill all of us. And they have made a mistake. She looked out at the survivors. The broken. The orphaned. The lost. They have taught us what mercy costs. They have shown us what the galaxy really is. And now we must become what this galaxy requires. Marcus Cole stood at the back of the crowd. His uniform was torn and stained with blood. His face was empty. He had nothing left inside him but ash and silence. But when the president spoke, something stirred in that emptiness. Something cold. Something patient. Something that would not die until justice was done. We will remember, Okonkwo said. We will rebuild. And when the time comes, we will teach the galaxy what vengeance means. The survivors did not cheer. They did not cry. They simply nodded that they had paid the price. Now they would collect the debt. 5 years of silence. The galaxy moved on. That was what galaxies did. The Vrakthri celebrated their victory. The Concord returned to its endless debates. Other species watched the news for a few weeks, felt sad, and then forgot. Humanity was a memory. A warning. A story parents told children about what happened to the weak. But in the darkness between stars, something was growing. The survivors had fled to the edges of known space. Barren moons. Dead asteroids. Places no one wanted. Places no one watched. They called their new home the Remnant, and they built it with bleeding hands and broken hearts. Marcus Cole became the leader of what remained of human military. It was not much. A handful of damaged ships. A few thousand soldiers who had survived the culling. But they were enough to begin. The first year was survival. Finding food. Finding air. Finding the will to wake up each morning in a universe that had proven itself cruel beyond imagination. But humans were good at survival. They had crawled out of caves with nothing but sticks and stones. They had crossed oceans in wooden boats. They had split the atom and touched the stars. They did not know how to give up. It was not in their nature. The second year was planning. Cole gathered the brightest minds humanity had. Left. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, strategists. They met in a hollowed-out asteroid. They called the Forge. The walls were bare rock. The lights were dim. But the ideas that filled that room burned brighter than any star. We cannot fight them as we are, Cole said. We need to become something else. Something they have never seen. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stepped forward. She had been the leading weapons researcher on Earth. She had watched her laboratory and her family burn from orbit. Now she had nothing left but her mind and her rage. I have studied Vrakthri technology, she said. I have studied every species we ever traded with. They are all afraid of the same thing. Innovation. They find something that works and they use it forever. They do not change. She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. Humans change. It is what we do. It is what they should have feared. Project Prometheus began in the third year. Every surviving human was given a purpose. There were no civilians anymore. There were only soldiers who had not yet received their weapons. Children learned mathematics and physics alongside combat tactics. Elderly engineers worked until their hands bled, building machines the galaxy had never imagined. Artists designed propaganda that would strike fear into hearts across the stars. Poets wrote battle hymns. Everyone worked. Everyone trained. Everyone remembered. The Vrakthri had killed 12 billion humans. The survivors tattooed the number on their arms. They whispered it when they woke and when they slept. They carved it into walls and welded it into holes. 12 billion. The debt that would be paid. Cole pushed himself harder than anyone. He slept 3 hours a night. He trained with soldiers half his age. He read every report, approved every design, spoke at every memorial. Ambassador Alara Vance watched him with worried eyes. She had become his closest advisor, though she no longer believed in diplomacy. "You will burn yourself out," she told him one night in his quarters. "Good," Cole replied. "I will burn until there is nothing left. And then my ashes will fight on." "This is not what we were," Alara said softly. "We were kind. We believed in peace." Cole turned to face her. His eyes were empty pools of darkness. "That humanity died with our children. What remains is something else. Something that will make them pay for what they took." Alara did not argue. She had no argument left. The fourth year brought the ships. Dr. Tanaka and her teams had worked miracles. They had taken technology from a dozen species and improved it in ways no one thought possible. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days instead of weeks. Weapons that could slice through any known armor. Shields that laughed at the strongest attacks. They built the ships in secret, inside asteroids that looked like ordinary rocks. From the outside, the remnant appeared to be a collection of refugee camps. Inside, it was the largest military production facility the galaxy had ever seen. Cole walked through the shipyards every day. He watched the vessels take shape. Each one was a monument to human grief. Each one was named for a lost world. The U.S. New Helsinki, the U.S. Meridian, the U.S. Haven, and the flagship, the greatest warship ever built. They called it the U.S. Earth's Memory. Beautiful, Cole whispered as he watched it grow. And terrible. Both, Dr. Tanaka agreed. As we have become. The fifth year was preparation. 10,000 warships. 500,000 soldiers. Weapons that could crack planets. This was what humanity had become. Not gardeners and poets and dreamers. Warriors. Avengers. The galaxy's nightmare made real. But Cole waited. He was patient now. Patient in a way that old humans had never been. He had learned patience from his grief. He had learned it from the ashes of his family. A Vrak 3 spy ship entered the remnant one day. It came to confirm what everyone believed, that humans were broken, scattered, finished. Cole let them come close. Let them see the refugee camps on the surface. Let them laugh at human weakness. Then he sprung the trap. The spy ship was captured intact. Its crew was brought before Cole in chains. For the first time in history, Vrak 3 looked upon humans with fear in their eyes. "You will send a message to your masters," Cole told them. His voice was calm, empty, like the void between stars. "You will tell them we are coming. They will destroy you," the Vrak 3 captain hissed. "You are nothing. Insects. Prey." Cole smiled. It was the worst thing the captain had ever seen. "We were prey," Cole agreed. "You taught us to be predators. You should have killed us all. That was your mistake. Now you will learn what humans become when you take everything from them." He leaned close to the captain's face. "We become patient. We become cold. We become the thing that hunts in the darkness. And we never, ever forget." The spy was released. He flew home as fast as his damaged ship could carry him. His message reached the Vrak 3 High Command 3 days later. Ambassador Vrex read it and felt something he had never felt before. A chill in his exoskeleton. A tightness in his chest. The message was simple. We remember 12 billion. We are coming. And there is nothing in the galaxy that will stop us. The Vrak 3 laughed at first. Then they checked their long-range sensors. 10,000 human warships were leaving the remnant. They moved in perfect formation. They made no attempt to hide. The armada of ashes had awakened, and the galaxy began to tremble. The armada of ashes crossed the galaxy like a storm of iron and fire. Admiral Marcus, Cole stood on the bridge of the UES Earth's memory. Around him, officers worked in perfect silence. No cheering, no battle cries, only the quiet hum of machines and the steady breathing of humans who had waited 5 years for this moment. Cole opened a channel that broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Every species, every world, every ship. They would all hear what he had to say. This is Admiral Marcus Cole of the Human Remnant. 5 years ago, you watched our children burn. You watched our worlds die. You debated while we screamed for help. You did nothing. He paused. His voice remained calm, cold, like ice that had frozen over an endless ocean of grief. We do not ask for your help now. We do not ask for your permission. We are going to destroy the Vractari Dominion. And when it is done, you will remember what humans become when you push us too far. You will remember, and you will never forget. The message ended. The galaxy fell silent. Then the killing began. The outer colonies of the Vractari Dominion fell within hours. Human weapons cut through their defenses like hot knives through paper. Vractari warships that had once terrorized the galaxy exploded before they could even fire. The Vractari commanders could not understand what was happening. Their technology had always been superior. Their fleets had always been unstoppable. Now they faced something they had never seen. Weapons that adapted to their defenses. Ships that moved faster than anything in known space. Soldiers who fought with terrifying precision and showed no fear at all. How is this possible? Demanded Supreme Commander Thrax as he watched 3 of his battle fleets vanish from his tactical display. They were broken. They were nothing. No one had an answer. Cole drove the armada forward without pause. He did not stop to celebrate victories. He did not accept surrender from military targets. Every Vractari warship was destroyed. Every military base was razed. Every weapon that could threaten humans was turned to ash. But he was careful. Terribly, precisely careful. Human ships did not attack civilian targets. They did not bomb cities. They did not slaughter the helpless. Cole had given strict orders, and every human obeyed. We are not them, he told his commanders. We will never be them. We will destroy their power to hurt anyone ever again. But we will not become monsters. Dr. Tanaka had argued with him about this. They killed our children. They deserve to feel what we felt. Yes, Cole agreed. They do. But our children would not want us to become what killed them. We fight for justice, not revenge. There is a difference, and that difference is what makes us human. It was a hard line to walk. Many humans wanted blood. They wanted to repay every death with 1,000 deaths. But Cole held them back. He reminded them of who they had been before the culling. We were gardeners, he said. We were poets. We were dreamers. We can be warriors too, but we will never be butchers. The Armada reached Vractari Prime in 3 weeks. The Vractari homeworld was ancient and terrible. A planet of hives and hunting grounds, where the strong had always ruled and the weak had always died. For 10,000 years, the Vractari had never faced a serious threat to their home dot, now 10,000 human. Warships hung in their sky like a judgment from angry gods. The Galactic Concord finally responded. They sent a fleet to stop the humans. Not to help them. Not to punish the Vractari. To stop the destruction. To preserve order. They arrived too late. Ambassador Vrex watched from the steps of the Hive Palace as human soldiers marched through the streets. They did not scream or rage. They moved in perfect silence, taking position after position with cold efficiency. The Vractari Royal Guard fought them. They lost. They had never faced enemies who felt no fear, who showed no mercy, who had already lost everything that could hurt them. Cole landed at the palace with his personal guard. He walked up the ancient steps, past the bodies of fallen Vractari warriors, past the shattered monuments to their cruelty. The queen of the Vractari waited for him in her throne room. She was ancient beyond measure, her carapace scarred from centuries of conflict. She had ruled her empire for 300 years. She had never bowed to anyone. "Human," she said. Her voice was like grinding glass. "You have won your war. Now tell me your terms. What tribute do you demand? What worlds do you want? Name your price for peace." Cole looked at her with empty eyes. "You do not understand. We do not want tribute. We do not want worlds. We want justice." "Justice?" The queen laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You want revenge. Say it plainly." "No, revenge would be easy. Revenge would be quick." Cole stepped closer. "You killed 4 billion people on Earth alone. You made them suffer. You made them beg. You broadcast their deaths for entertainment." His voice remained perfectly calm. "Revenge would be killing you and burning your world to ash. But that is not what we want. We want you to live. We want you to watch as everything you built is torn down. We want you to see your fleets destroyed, your armies disbanded, your empire dismantled piece by piece." The queen's compound eyes widened. "We want you to spend the rest of your long life knowing that you were beaten by the species you called weak. The species you hunted for sport. The species you thought you had destroyed." He turned to his soldiers. "Take her into custody. She will stand trial for her crimes, along with every commander who gave orders during the culling, along with every ambassador who mocked our pleas for help." The queen tried to fight. She was old, but still strong. Human soldiers restrained her with cold efficiency. "You cannot do this," she screamed. "The Concord will stop you. The galaxy will unite against you." Cole paused at the door. "The Concord is outside right now. They sent a fleet to stop us. Do you know what they are doing? They are watching. Just like they watched when you killed our children. Watching is all they know how to do." He looked back at her one last time. "We offered mercy once. You burned it with our children. What remains is not cruelty. It is consequence." Ambassador Alara Vance faced the Concord fleet from the bridge of a human destroyer. The aliens demanded explanations. They demanded humanity stop its assault. They warned of sanctions, of consequences, of galactic war. Alara listened to their threats without expression. When they finished, she spoke. "You watched 4 billion humans die on Earth. You watched 12 billion die across all our worlds. You held meetings about it. You expressed concern. You did nothing." Her voice was ice. "Now you come to defend the killers. Now you threaten us with consequences. Where were your consequences when we begged for help? Where were your threats when they slaughtered our children?" She leaned forward. "We have paid our price. We have learned what the galaxy truly is. And we will never be victims again. Go home. Tell your councils and your committees that humanity remembers. We remember everything, and we will never, ever forget." The Concord fleet withdrew. They had no choice. Human weapons could destroy them in minutes if Cole gave the order. The Vractari Dominion fell that day, not through genocide. Cole kept his word. No civilians were harmed, but their military was annihilated. Their colonies were occupied. Their queen was imprisoned to await trial. An empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years ended not with fire, but with cold, patient, implacable justice. Cole stood on the steps of the Hive Palace as the sun set on Vractari Prime. Behind him, human soldiers raised a flag over the conquered world. It was not the old flag of Earth. It was something new. A black field with 12 billion white stars, one for every human who had died. "We did it," Alara said softly, standing beside him. It's over. Cole shook his head.
This part is over. The next part is just beginning.
We have to show the galaxy that we are not what they feared. We have to show them that we are still human.
He looked up at the darkening sky.
We have to be better than the universe taught us to be. It was the hardest thing he had ever said. But he meant it. Humanity had paid its price. Now it would collect its due. 10 years had passed since the fall of the Vractari Dominion. The galaxy was not the same. It would never be the same again. The Galactic Concord still existed, but it had been transformed. Human representatives sat on the High Council with permanent seats and veto power. No more debates that lasted years while innocents died. No more silence while empires committed atrocities. When the strong attacked the weak now, they faced consequences. Human consequences. The Armada of Ashes patrolled the stars. 20,000 ships crewed by humans who remembered what the galaxy had let happen to their people. They were not conquerors. They did not demand tribute or territory. They simply watched, and when predators moved against prey, they struck with cold precision. A slaver fleet tried to raid a developing world in the Outer Rim. The Armada destroyed them before they could take a single captive. A warlord attempted to glass a colony that refused to pay protection money. His fleet vanished from existence, and his body was found floating in his escape pod with a message burned into the hull. We remember. The galaxy learned to fear that phrase. Ambassador Alara Vance had become the Speaker of the Council. She was old now, her hair pure white, her body frail. But her mind remained sharp, and her eyes still held the fire that had burned since Earth died. She trained a new generation of human diplomats. They learned languages and customs and protocols. They learned patience and understanding. But they also learned the truth that old humanity had refused to accept. The galaxy respects only strength, Alara taught them. We tried kindness alone. We tried mercy without power. We learned what that costs. Now we carry both. We speak softly, but we carry the biggest stick in the universe. And we use it when necessary. One of her students asked her once if she regretted the old ways, if she missed the humanity that believed in peace above all. Alara was quiet for a long time. Every day, she finally said, "I miss who we were. I wish we could have stayed innocent." But innocence is a luxury the universe does not always allow. We can still be kind. We can still believe in peace. But we can never be naive again. We paid too high a price for that lesson. Admiral Marcus Cole had retired. He lived on a small colony world called New Growth, one of the first planets humanity had claimed after the war. He had a house with a garden, and he spent his days tending plants that had grown from seeds salvaged from Earth. He was old now. His hands shook. His steps were slow. But sometimes people recognized him. Sometimes they stopped and stared at the man who had led the Armada of Ashes, the man who had brought an empire to its knees. Cole did not speak about the war. He did not attend memorials or give interviews. He simply tended his garden and watched the stars at night. Dr. Yuki Tanaka visited him sometimes. She had become the director of human defense research, still creating weapons the galaxy had never imagined. But she always made time for the old admiral. "They want to name another ship after you," she told him one evening as they sat on his porch. "No," Cole said. "No more ships with my name. Name them after the dead. They deserve to be remembered. I'm just a man who did what had to be done. You saved our species." Cole shook his head. "Our species saved itself. I just pointed them in the right direction." I just pointed them in the right direction. He looked at his garden, at the flowers blooming in the alien soil. "I dream about Earth sometimes. About my family. About the world before." His voice was soft, tired, full of an old pain that would never fully heal. I wonder if they would recognize what we have become. I wonder if they would be proud or horrified. Tanaka had no answer. Some questions did not have answers. On the memorial world of Terra Nova, the monument of ashes stood 1 mile high. It was made of black stone quarried from the ruins of Earth, carved with the names of every human who had died during the culling. 12 billion names. It took hours just to walk around its base. Humans came there from every corner of space. They stood before the monument and remembered. They wept for what was lost. They swore oaths that it would never happen again. A young girl named Maya stood there one day with her grandmother. She was 8 years old, born long after the war. She had never known Earth. She had never known fear. Why did they hate us? Maya asked, looking up at the endless names. Her grandmother knelt beside her. She was a survivor of the culling. She had been Maya's age when the Ractory came. They did not hate us, she said. They did not think we mattered enough to hate. We were just nothing to them. Something to be used and thrown away. But we showed them, Maya said. We beat them. Yes, we did. Her grandmother touched the stone. But this is what it cost. Always remember that. Maya, always remember the price. She took her granddaughter's hand. We are different now. Stronger, fiercer, but we must never lose who we were before. Kind, hopeful, believing in something better. That is what makes us human. Not our ships or our weapons. Our hearts. Maya placed a flower at the base of the monument. A small white flower from Earth, grown in a greenhouse, precious beyond measure. I promise, she whispered. I will remember. In a distant corner of the galaxy, a young species was taking its first steps into space. They had just discovered faster-than-light travel. They were excited and afraid and full of wonder. Their first ambassador met with a Concord representative to learn about the galaxy. She was nervous, worried about the dangers that waited among the stars. Tell me about the species we should fear, she asked. The ones who might threaten us. The Concord representative thought for a long moment. He was an ancient being, old enough to remember a galaxy before humans had changed it. There are many dangerous species, he said. But let me tell you about one in particular. They are called humans. The young ambassador looked worried. Are they hostile? No, not exactly. The representative struggled to find the right words. They are the gentlest species you will ever meet. They create beautiful art. They tell wonderful stories. They cry at sad songs and laugh at silly jokes. They adopt stray animals and feed hungry strangers. That does not sound dangerous. No, it does not. The representative leaned closer. But once, a long time ago, a great empire decided that humans were weak. That empire killed billions of them, burned their homeworld, thought they had destroyed them forever. His voice dropped to a whisper. The humans came back. They came back with weapons no one had ever seen. They came back with ships that darkened the stars. They came back with cold fury that burned hotter than any sun. And they erased that empire from existence. Not in anger. In justice. The young ambassador swallowed hard. Remember this, the representative said. Humans will be your best friends in the galaxy. They will protect you. They will help you. They will show you kindness you cannot imagine. But if you ever harm them, if you ever touch their children or burn their homes, he shuddered. They will teach you why the galaxy trembles when humans go to war. They will teach you why even the oldest empires look at them with fear in their eyes. They will teach you that mercy is something they choose to give, and they can choose to take it away. The young ambassador nodded slowly. So be kind to them, the representative concluded. Be honest with them. Be their friend. And pray you never have to see what lies beneath their gentle smiles. Because what lies beneath built an armada from ashes, and broke the strongest empire the galaxy has ever known. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. They were gardeners once, poets, dreamers. Now they are guardians, and the galaxy is safer for it. But never forget what made them that way. Never forget the price they paid. Far across the galaxy, Marcus Cole sat in his garden as the sun set. The flowers were blooming. The air smelled sweet. He looked up at the stars and thought about his wife, his children, the world he had loved and lost. "We kept our souls," he whispered to them. "We became something terrible, but we did not become monsters. I hope that is enough. I hope you can forgive us for surviving." The stars did not answer. They never did. But somewhere out there, on 100 worlds, human children were playing without fear. Human families were sitting down to dinner. Human artists were creating beauty. Human dreamers were dreaming dreams. The price had been paid. The lesson had been learned. And humanity would never forget. The galaxy trembled, but it was safe, and the flowers kept blooming.